Hello and welcome to another episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host. Not showing up. I'm your host, Eric Smith. So here we go. Last time I checked, it was 14 degrees outside, and it's all snowy, so I'm bundled up. And when the weather is like this, cold and snowy, like I just said, it's always nice to bundle up and read a good book. For those of you out there with nice weather, hey, nothing wrong with stripping down as far as the law will allow you and heading outside to read a good book. I'm not going to do that because it's freaking cold. But anyway, the point is, read a good book, such as The Unhinged by David Bernstein. Another Sam Hain book. I recently got a bunch of brand new Sam Hain books, so I'm tearing through them, trying to anyway. Want to get some reviews out there while the books are still fresh and new. So this is the first one of those books that I got. It's blood spatter. Ooh. So anyway, in this book, the main character is Aaron Dupree, and he is an ex-con out on parole, and he's just trying to live his life within the rules. He's got a 9 p.m. curfew. He's got his job, has to visit his parole officer. So he's just trying to get his life back on track. And one day he gets pulled over by a cop, and that cop decides to blackmail him with the threat of going back to jail. The cop blackmails him into doing some crazy things, and it just escalates as things get out of control. So that's the basics of the story. And I like this. I like this story a lot. No supernatural horror in this, as much as I love supernatural horror. Every once in a while it's nice to read something that's based in reality, I suppose. And as I was reading this, I was reminded a lot of Richard Lehman. And I hadn't read the front cover blurb, which mentions Richard Lehman. So if anyone's familiar with that gentleman's work, you'll see some of it in here. At the beginning of the book, we're introduced to the cop, and we quickly learn that there's something wrong with this guy. For most of the book, he remains kind of a cipher. We get a little bit of things here and there, but I think he's just referred to as the cop for most of the book, so we never even get his name. He may mention it at the beginning. But either way, we're introduced to him, but then we're introduced to Aaron Dupree, who's the protagonist. And as I said, Aaron's just trying to get his life back together after spending 6 years in prison. He lives with his mom. He works as a dishwasher at a restaurant. He's got a crush on one of the girls that works there. And everything seems to be going okay until he gets pulled over. Sometimes I have a problem with this kind of story, simply because I think it can tend to go off the rails a little quickly. The motivation of the characters can be a little wonky. Actually, one of the Richard Lehman books that I read, the first or second one I ever read, was a very similar type of book where someone's being enticed to do different crazy things and it escalates. And I wasn't a big fan of that one. Now, it's always possible I was in the wrong mood for that kind of book, because I just wasn't a huge fan of that particular book. But this one I really like. I like the characters. I like the writing style. I've not read anything by David Bernstein before, so this wasn't a bad introduction. I think there are two types of horror in this book. There's the obvious violent horror, and there's some crazy violence in here. Not sure splatter porn is the right term. Well, maybe. I don't know. It's pretty hardcore in some spots. So you've got that, which of course I enjoy, the over-the-top violence. But the other horror in here is the horror of anticipation that both Aaron Dupree and the reader feels. Because you have those instances of the real violent horror. It's like a punch in the gut, and then everything kind of calms down. But you know there's something coming. And Aaron Dupree knows there's something coming. And he's trying to live his life and just get things back on track. But he's just waiting for that call from the cop. Because he knows it's coming. He keeps hoping. Well, at times he's hoping that maybe the cop forgot about it. Maybe it was all nothing. But of course, as the outsider, we know that there's 150 pages left or whatever. We know something's coming, but just like Aaron Dupree, we don't know when, and we don't know what it's going to be. And that builds the tension. A lot of books with ultraviolence focus on that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I like that, but this really builds that tension in between the scenes of the violence, of the real horror, whatever you want to call it. So I think Bernstein did a good job there. It's, as they say, a page turner, because you're waiting just to see, okay, Aaron seems to be getting his life back on track, but we know he's going to get knocked on his ass again. And I mean, he has a pretty good reason for doing the things he does. I mean, he doesn't want to go back to jail. We get a little bit of what happened to him in prison. I've never been to prison. I don't know what it's like, except for, movies and TV and books. So I don't know how accurate it is in here. I imagine it's, well, again, I don't know. But we can understand why Aaron doesn't want to go back to prison. And, he figures he's an ex-con. If he tries to turn the cop in, it's his word against the cops. And so I understand his motivation, which makes it a little bit better than some other books like this that I've read. Yeah, it gets crazy, which I like. The escalation is well paced, and looks like someone in their dress uniform. It's well paced. As I said, the anticipation builds nicely, and then you have this big bam, this huge scene of violence, or whatever. And then things slow down again. And then bam! And then things slow down again. So it's well done. It's just not, it's not a non-stop thrill ride, but it is a non-stop bit of tension going on, I suppose. I'll definitely be finding more work by David Bernstein and reading that. What? I know there's something else I wanted to say, and that's why I should write these things down. Oh, this does have one of my favorite endings in a long time. I think the last sentence, and I'm just going to take a quick look at the last sentence. That is an excerpt from something else. Yep. Yes, just wanted to make sure it was the last sentence, not part of the last paragraph or something. I love the last sentence of this book. Don't jump ahead. Read the whole thing. and get to that ending that's just fantastic. Excuse me. I'd blame the cold, but anyone who watches these videos know I cough and sniff a lot, so I can't blame the cold. Although it's so freaking cold out there right now. Alright, so this is a quick review, a little quicker than some of my others. I didn't have any toys to play with in this one, and no special pictures. I forget what I call them. But, so that's pretty much it. Not sure what else to say. As I said, the characters are good. Aaron, his mother, the girl that he likes. I want to say her name is Hannah. It's been a few weeks since I read this. Hey, look, there it is. That was quick. It is Hannah, so the girl he likes. The cop, for as much as we get, is an interesting and terrifying antagonist. There are some other characters in here I don't want to mention. You'll just have to read and find out about them. So well done. Like I said, I'll have to pick up some more of David Bernstein's stuff and read it. I think it's in the About the Author thing. He says that you can't just read one of his books and then pigeonhole them. They're all different. So I'm going to have to test that, see if he's telling the truth. So this was a nice little break, as I said, some non-supernatural horror. I think for fans of... I'm trying to think of movies that fans of certain movies who might like this, and the torture porn comes to mind, but I'm not sure that that's accurate. I'd say if you like Saw or Hostel or those kinds of things. I guess if you like those for the blood and violence, then you'd probably like this. But it's different. It's not torture porn. It's more hardcore horror, splatterpunk, maybe. Not sure that term is used too much anymore. But again, if you want some gore and some tension, a nice mix of both, you could do worse than... That doesn't sound like a rave review. You could do worse than this. You could do much worse than this. This is definitely worth picking up. As always, I will have a link for this book in the description down below. Please put any comments, corrections, or questions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe. For those of you in the cold areas of the world, I'm not a fan. So everybody stay warm. For those of you in the warmer areas of the world, if it's too warm for you, stay cool. If it's not, get out there and get some fresh air. Read a book in the sunshine. And that's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. And until next time, read more books.